One of the biggest problems that people can have in communicating is the lack of emotional vocabulary. Emotional vocabulary takes emotions and emotional memory from the nonverbal area of the brain and it expands it to verbal areas of the brain so that we can express with words what we are feeling and match those words to what they describe as far as the feelings that we have. So, for instance, someone might be angry, but if they want to express that anger, a good way to do it is to be able to teach them the words in which to say what they are trying to express, which in that instance would be anger. Now, it may be a more specific form of anger, so we would teach them a word like frustration. But the problem being is that why you need a therapist to help you with this sometimes is because emotional vocabulary is about discovering how the word links to the emotion. So that is one way that I would prevent suicide if I were working in a therapeutic role. I am not a therapist or a doctor. I simply have been through therapy and I myself have a mental health problem. Now, when you are dealing with um, verbal communication in someone who is trying to tell you how they feel, whereas communication can be a lack of emotional communication can be a really big problem that can lead to suicide. Because if we don't talk about it, how we're feeling, what we're going through, what we're thinking, the doubts we have, the problems we face, this can cause serious stress in a person's life. Eventually, a psychotic breakdown might be able to occur given too much stress and the collapse of that fortitude in your mind. Now, one of the interesting ways that I've researched as far as therapy to help young children with OCD is to use unstructured play therapy involving puppets where you project how you feel, and you can use voiceovers with this as well, in voice characterization and acting. And so, one of the ways that you can de stress to prevent suicide and deal with building an emotional vocabulary is to use puppet therapy and to use it in an unstructured way where the point is to be able to speak freely and not have to worry about structuring what we say or think so that it's socially acceptable. Now, when you're dealing in a therapeutic environment like that, because certain people might, largely children is who this is used for, it's an early intervention that most people don't know about for OCD. But it is effective according to several things that I've read. But the interesting thing about this therapy is that unstructured play therapy with puppet therapy, you want to hide as the therapist your facial expression from the individual that you're working with or the individuals that you're working with. And I suppose you could use this as a group therapy potentially. But it also teaches you dialogue and socialization and communication of our emotional feelings. And so, one of the ways that you go about this is you hide your face, like I said, to hide your judgment from the child. But you also want to hide your facial expression and body behavior from adults as well when you're doing this. And so, this is an interesting way to explore how we feel and to learn that emotional vocabulary, like I said. So, usually you would hide your face behind a couch or a dresser or whatever it might be or a chair, and you simply go at it as far as making up stories and talking, and you essentially can say what you want without being in a situation of judgment. And that's the point. And the larger point, though, is that it develops a sense of relief and confession and helps you de-stress, and it teaches a person how to let go. And so I really think that this particular method of therapy would be very beneficial for individuals in the military who may have difficulty with suicidal ideations, or other related problems such as depression or OCD. And it helps you to get a lot of your worries out that you might have. And so I really feel that this is a possible way that the government can increase funding towards research in this area to help prevent the global suicide rate, as well as the suicide rate in our own country. And the more therapists who are available to do unstructured play therapy and teach people emotional vocabulary, the better off I think the solution will go. And this is a problem that we can solve.